Hello, welcome back to our second tutorial. This one's on terminology. We're going to be taking the confusion out of some of the chemistry words that you come across. So by terminology we're talking about chemistry words, which will include words for particles and words for matter and substances. In chemistry words we're going to be dealing with lots of words used in the context of learning chemistry. Quite often you hear these words and read them being misused by students in exam questions and so on, and that's marks being lost, so it's important to get this right. So examples are atom, molecule, ion, element, compound, and mixture. We're going to look at those more closely. We can split our chemistry words into two groups. So particle words, those are words for a unit of a substance. They are going to be atom, molecule or ion that we'll look at more closely. And substance words, these describe the makeup or nature of a material. And these are going to be element, compound and mixture that we take a closer look at. So particle words first. We're going to look at atoms. So an atom is the smallest unit of matter, as we've discussed earlier in the first tutorial. They're made of smaller particles that aren't considered to be matter. And all elements are made up from atoms. Overall, these are always neutral. They don't have an overall positive or negative charge on them. We're going to look at molecules. Molecules are the smallest unit of a substance, not necessarily an element, but a substance. They'll have two or more atoms, and the atoms can be from more than one element or just one element. Again, these are neutral. They don't have an overall positive or negative charge. Finally, we're going to look at ions. So an ion is an atom or group of atoms with a net charge. We, at this stage, usually look at individual atoms that form ions. These will always have a charge. That's one of the definitions of an ion, and that charge will be positive or negative. They can't exist in isolation. There will always be other ions of a different type present. And ions, of course, make up ionic substances and ionic compounds. So in summary, atoms will always have just one atom, of course, and have a neutral charge. They can be isolated. You can have them on their own. Molecules have two or more atoms. They'll be neutral, and again, they can exist on their own. Ions have one or more atoms. They will have a charge overall, which could be positive or negative, and they can't be isolated on their own. Moving on to substance words, we're going to look at elements. So an element is one of the substances you find on the periodic table. There's over 100 of them. Elements can't be broken down into a simpler substance. We can't break sodium, for example, down into something less than sodium. Can't we make it into something simpler? And that's because an element has atoms of only one type present. So examples would include hydrogen, iron, sodium, oxygen, in fact everything that you'll find on the periodic table. Compounds, however, are substances made from atoms of more than one element bonded together. They'll have more than one type of atom present. They can be chemically broken down into simpler substances, and compounds aren't found directly on the periodic table. So examples you'll regularly come across are water, sodium chloride, sodium hydroxide, nitric acid, and so many more. Finally, in substances, we're going to talk about mixtures. So a mixture is a substance, a preparation, if you like, of other substances that are not bonded to each other. So this means there is more than one simpler substance present. Constituent substances are mixed together but not bonded to each other. So generally, substances can be separated from each other by physical means. Some examples include air, which is a mixture of different gases that aren't bonded to each other, petrol, milk that's got water, it's got other compounds within it that aren't bonded to each other, perfumes, there are many more. You could imagine getting a bucket of sand and mixing in some rice with it. That is a mixture once that's mixed, but the rice and the sand are not bonded to each other. So it's a mixture. And in summary, so an element has one type of atom present only. They can be bonded to each other, usually are, and it can't be physically separated into smaller substances. A compound is different because it has more than one type of atom present. They will always be bonded to each other, and again that can't be broken down physically into smaller substances, simpler substances. And a mixture will again have more than one type of atom present. The substances present are not bonded to each other, and usually we can separate these out into constituent substances. Okay, let's have a look at a preview of what we're going to look at in tomorrow's first tutorial. We're going to look at balancing equations. Again, something really important for us. So we'll speak to you again tomorrow.